All right, Coach. So take me from the beginning. Man. Where's home? Where's home for you? Where you born and bred?
Originally born in Canton, Ohio, East Coast. Yeah, I moved here when I was about 10, and found home here in Oklahoma. So pretty much I say I've been born and raised in Oklahoma. You know, when you live your adult life here down in Oklahoma.
There you go. See, that's the part I didn't know. I done asked people about you. I done Googled you and all that, but I didn't hear one report of Canton, Ohio. Okay. Yes.
So
when did that ball start bouncing for you?
I started really finding a passion for it. Of course, at an early age, I really honestly started taking it real serious towards junior high, about 8th grade.
Right.
And moved out to Midwest City, went to Carl Albert High School, and, got a chance to play for a Hall of Fame coach and also a soon-to-be Hall of Fame coach, Doug Raper was a Hall of Fame coach, and soon to be, I believe, Patrick Cudjoe was my senior coach my senior year. So it's grown on me for a long time. I've always enjoyed the game. Always been blessed around a lot of good players that were older than me that I watched play and kind of just hung around them to try to mirror myself with them.
There you go. And as they say, man, whatever you're around, that's what you tend to turn into.
Exactly.
What type of player would you describe yourself to be? And the reason I ask that is because I feel like during my days, I had two gifts. I was tall and I could catch and shoot. Okay. Everything else I had to work hard to develop, but I always knew where I was, and I dang sure knew where I wasn't. Like, what type of player were you?
Well, I was the opposite of you. Okay. I was short. And I was the defensive guy. So I never was the guy that I was just that guy that I felt that whatever coach needed, I'd go out there and do. I didn't mind, working harder than a lot of the other guys and trying to just show that intensity and passion on the defensive end is something that I felt that I was decent at, and whatever I could do for the team to help them win back at that time.
Mm-hmm. How early did you get to make your varsity appearance, man? I know I wanted it bad as a freshman, but we were too senior heavy.
Yeah, and it was tough to make it at Carl Albert as varsity. I didn't make varsity till my junior year. Okay. Honestly, my sophomore year, coach kept me around kind of as I kind of did film, but I still practiced with them. Mm-hmm. But I would travel. But my junior year was that year that I call it the full year of a varsity suit. Sophomore was kind of back and forth a little
sporadic.
Bit. Yeah.
Now, when you were given some of those managerial duties, did you handle those with some grace, or did you take it as like, oh man, coach disrespected me, man?
No, I think then we knew what the talent level was back at Carl Albert. I knew my role, I knew my place, and to me it was about me being able to travel with the guys whenever I could and support the team any way I could. I got to practice with the varsity and do all those things, and towards the end of the year, of course, you get that varsity uniform after you show that dedication and all that, But sometimes, you have to earn them stripes. And I look at it as the same ways that I've kind of earned my stripes in coaching and from when I started to where I'm at now.
For sure. Before we venture into the coaching, when you got to be a senior, what was that last run like? Because you got that 1 year varsity under your belt. You're feeling like you've arrived to some degree. What was that last run like, man? And it's rich tradition over there at Carl Albert, so I'm sort of fascinated to know how your time was as a player.
It was a tough senior year for us. That was Coach Cudjoe's first year as a head coach for us. We were senior loaded with a lot of returning guys coming back. Had some really good bigs, really good guard play, and got knocked out by Douglas High School, Lonzo Mays and that group, right. 92, which is a really talented group too. But all those memories that I've had when I was a senior, I wouldn't regret anything. I think the relationships and the camaraderie I've had with those guys, I still have to this day, which I think is important. And we still no, it doesn't. We stay in touch, and we've got our own nicknames for each other, and their families like our family, and we always still try to look after each other. Of course, we all got families that we got to attend to, but it's been a blessing to still be able to stay in touch with those guys.
Was it any adjustment period at all with you guys? Having new instruction take over, even though Coach Cudjoe went from an assistant on that staff, right, to move it up, or did he come from elsewhere?
He came an assistant from, I believe it would have been Douglas then at the time.
Oh wow, okay.
Before he got the head job at Carl Albert.
I hear you now, and you know how it is when you've been in a program for 2 or 3 years, and just one leader, and then here you go for your last hurrah. We got a stranger, no matter who he is.
Correct.
So with fellas, it's kind of hard to trust, man. Did you sense any of that?
It was a difficult transition, I think, for a lot of us, but. Patrick and I are like brothers now. I mean, we talk probably every other day. Mm-hmm. people get us mixed up. Call me Cudjoe, he call him Hatchett. You know, I mean, that's how close we are.
Man, you ain't that short.
I hope I look as good as he does when I get that age.
And he's keeping it together.
But you know, it was a difficult situation at that time. But I think a lot of that was just, it put us all in good places of where we're at right now. We all learned great things from Patrick, and Coach did a great job on what he had at that time and what he felt was right. And we had to buy in and do what we felt we needed to do to make that program continue to have success.
Would you say your role drastically changed in that transition, or were you?
No, I don't think my role drastically changed. You know, I believe that I was kind of one of those leader guys. You know, the guys that listen to. We had a couple bigs that as guards we could really get in their butts a little bit and let them know what they need to be doing to help this team. You know, sometimes it always didn't have to come from the coach. It kind of came from us. And Patrick leaned on us to do that a lot in that first year, which was helping me out as far as I get to the college ranks.
I feel that. Now, transitioning to college, I read in your bio you went to Phillips University.
Correct.
In Enid. Mm-hmm. Now, is Phillips still there?
Phillips is still there, but it's called NOC of Enid now.
NOC of Enid.
Yeah, it's a JUCO.
Was it a junior college back then or no?
No, we were 4-year NAIA.
4-year NAIA.
Yeah, we were in that Sooner Athletic Conference with OCU, SNU.
That's why I played at USAO.
USAO. There was some good basketball back then.
Yeah,
good basketball.
How was that? How was your college career? Was it a noticeable jump from the workload and the demands from high school to college? Did you notice that?
It's a huge jump. It's a commitment. I mean, I think a different type of commitment where you have to understand that those college coaches are there to win, you know, and their jobs are on the line if they don't have the right guys in a position to win. And we were blessed to have a really good coach that came in, ran Chapel, and set some records up there with wins and championships and things like that. And I was just glad to be a part of that in any way I could. And Phillips has a lot of great memories with a lot of good relationships that I still have with those college guys as well. That's
what it's about. Did it take a minute for you to get in the mix, or were you able to get acclimated early on and find your space?
Oh, yeah. It takes you a minute, you know, because, you know, when you're a college coach, you bring in the guys you want. And when you're already kind of there and you're trying to find their way, it takes you a little time.
For sure. Can you think of a moment where you like, okay, I'm starting to figure this thing out. You're starting to get in the rotation a little bit more regularly, or maybe you earn a starting job and maybe your role expands. Do you remember when you had that moment?
It was in practice, you know. It was a practice moment. I know you kind of find yourself being able to do the little things that maybe some of them starting guards didn't want to do. You know, whether it was those loose balls and, you know, playing that defensive end and finding ways to make it uncomfortable for them.
Right.
You know, coach appreciates those type of things because you're only doing nothing but making that your teammmate better for a win.
Those things that aren't necessarily sexy and they don't make the stat sheet.
They're not.
But they got to get done.
That's right.
Were you there all four?
No, I was only there for a year and a half. I actually kind of bounced around a little bit, started going to a school in North Carolina. That was kind of my dream to go out there. We had some family out there.
Okay.
Went out there, came back. That's when I went to Phillips. And then I finished my last year at UCO where I ran track there. And I knew what my calling was. It was time for me to graduate, get that degree, finish up, and then move on. And got blessed to be able to coach.
Man, listen, I felt that same way going into my senior season in college. It was like, you know, I'm hearing all these guys, all my teammates with these aspirations to go and play abroad. And, you know, I don't want to salt anybody's dream, but I knew that some of them they just hated looking in the eyes of reality that, oh, snap, I'm about to have to go to work.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
But when it was winding down for me, I was okay with it. Similar to the way that I saw the handwriting on the wall.
Right.
But how was that experience running track? I didn't even know you were a dual sport athlete.
I really wasn't planning on it. I was just transferring to get it, you know, got transferred home because I knew Phillips was getting ready to close down at that time. And financially, it worked out where I could go and finish up my school at UCO. And track coach hit me up. We saw us out working out one day and asked me to come run. And I said, I'll try it out. And he paid for my school and made it happen for my last year. And had some good times. It helped me out a lot, you know.
What events did you participate in? What was your niche?
4x1, 400 in the mile relay.
All right.
So
you turned out to be. Were you any good?
I held my own on the relays. I did my job.
I like the way you said I did my job.
I did our job. That's right.
I love that. All right. Now, how early in your lifetime did you determine that? All right, I want to coach once I'm finished competing.
You know, I started out with communications degree when I was going to school in North Carolina for a little bit, and I wanted to be behind the scenes, kind of like what my man over here is doing, behind the scenes with the lights and all that.
Right.
I always enjoyed that. That's when ESPN was just kind of really getting popular back then, and I wanted to be behind the scenes with type of stuff where you work with the sounds and light and things like that. When I came back home, I have a younger brother, J.D. Reynolds, started playing a football. We're 10 years apart. And he's doing Little League Pop Warner football on the east side. We lived on the east side with the T-Birds.
Exactly.
And I'll never forget Ben Steele brought me in and asked me to help with basketball and football. I kind of learned a lot from him. And ever since then, it just grew on me because I could just see the impact you're able to make with young kids at that young of an age. And I just felt that was my calling, and I continued to keep doing it, and got an opportunity when I graduated in '98 from college. I was actually dual coach, and I was kind of coaching at Delcrest Middle School for girls basketball and assistant at the high school for Carl Albert. So I was, trying to make both places, and I was just wanting to do whatever I need to do to get my foot in the door, and make it happen.
How rewarding was it, the experience of coaching girls? And that means something to me because when I started my career back in 2011, it was with girls. And I remember walking in there thinking that I was going to have to be on eggshells. I was going to have to be tender and all of this. But then my boss at the time, I saw him just light into one of them girls because they were cutting up, just doing what kids do. And he ripped her. He didn't disrespect her, but the way he got on to her, I was like, oh, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
How was it for you?
It was great. I mean, I still have a lot of relationships with all those girls. Several of them, it's funny, they graduated from Dale City High School, of course, and they'll come back and watch games and remember me as coach and come back and support our team and try to help us out in ways we can, need be. But girls, you can coach just as hard as boys, I think. I think they respond well. They listen. And a lot of them, they kind of come from back then when I was coaching, really – girls basketball was popular, but it wasn't as popular as I think it is now, So what you're teaching them, they'll grasp on and be able to listen, and they would go out there and execute and play hard. And then you knew when it meant something to them, when you do see them tears in their eyes, and they would feel upset that they disappointed you. And it was not about breaking them down. It was about building them up. And I think that's something that we enjoy doing with those young ladies that we got to coach.
And so you were the head coach at that time for the young ladies, correct?
7th grade girls basketball coach, yes.
So you're getting a dose of leadership, being able to run your show, right?
Right.
And then you're learning at a higher level. Were you working up under Coach?
I was working under. He gave me my first assistant job. Yes.
That's all right, man.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? Because now you played for him, and you come full circle, and you're coaching under him, and then now y'all are peers. How about that transition?
I think the transition really helped because I was able to. With those players that I was able to be under him with, I was able to be that bridge between them and him, and letting them guys know, this is what Coach Cudjoe needs you to do. This is what Cudjoe needs, because I think sometimes assistant coaches, they are that middle guy where the kids feel a little more comfortable to go to and talk to about their issues or whatever it is, playing time or whatever. But sometimes you just got to be straight up honest with them. And I think that's what those kids really respected. We were honest with them. I was straightforward with them. We didn't want to beat around the bush. And I think the transition and the opportunity worked itself out really good.
You were the liaison, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Now, on his staff, did you have a team of your own? Were you freshman or JV, or were you just assistant?
I was just assistant varsity, and he let me dabble with the JV a little bit too.
There you go.
So like I said, I try to stay around as much as I could, whether it was summer camps, summer leagues, whatever he needed me to work. I wanted to make sure I was there for him and helped him out any way I could. Because to me, that's the way. To me, that's how a coach learns. Sure. To me, to run something, to organize things, and try to get those guys to do what you need them to do.
How long were you under Cudjoe's instruction? Well, helping him out before you branched off?
Well, I was assistant there for 6 years at Carl Albert. So from 98 to 04, but only assistant with him, I believe it was 3, because I was with Kirk Wilson for 2 and then Jay Price for 1 because Cudjoe left and took the head job with Star Spencer. Gotcha.
Now, was there a point where you got to where you were like, okay, I think I'm primed and ready to go and leave the nest and go run my own show? Was it after that 6th year or was it before that?
Oh, it was actually before. It was that 5th year when Kirk Wilson decided to take a different job out Southwest. we thought we had an opportunity. I thought I had an opportunity to get that head job at Carl Albert, and it didn't work out. I was one of the finalists, and they gave it to a really good coach, and Jay Price, and he's still there, and he's done a great job. And of course, I'm young, and I was a little bitter and a little upset. That was my alumni. I'm kind of feeling, but he was also alumni too. He's an alumni too. But after I sat and talked to a lot of people, I started figuring out, you just have to wait your turn. You have to wait, your time's going to come. And then I stayed a year with him and learned a lot from him. And an opportunity opened up at Mount St. Mary's Catholic High School, and I went and interviewed, and that was my first head job over there.
Man, how elated were you to finally get that opportunity? I can remember when I first got mine, I was just so gung-ho, and all I wanted to do was just work. I mean, obviously, you got to meet and greet and do all the PR stuff. But I want to get on this hardwood and let's go to work. And I was wanting to take all the free time that I could away from my players to devote it to basketball. And I wouldn't do it the same way today. But how was it for you when you first got in that driver's seat?
It was like I was kind of like you. You just ready to go. You're ready to go gung-ho. And then you also come in with a mentality that you're ready to teach these kids the way you were coached, and sometimes you have to, I think as I've gotten older, I've started to learn you kind of have to sit back and figure out what your personnel and what type of players you got. Because sometimes what worked for us there may not work for what I had my first 2 years, 3 years at Mount St. Mary. And our first year was a struggle at the Mount. I'll never forget it. We didn't win one game. Coach, I didn't win one game. I went 0-22, and I thought maybe I'm not ready to be a head coach.
Sure.
But I talked to a couple people, and I remember someone told me, he said, you got to learn how to lose before you learn how to win, and that sometimes kind of hit me. It hit me in a way where I had to accept that, and but you don't stop working. You continue to keep working your kids. You keep believing in your philosophy and your system, what you want to do. And at that time, those kids will gravitate and attach to what you're trying to do. And I believe in time, it works itself out. And I believe it's worked out for me. Luckily, I've been blessed to have some great players, and I've been supported by some great admin and support staff, great assistant coaches. And, and that's kind of where we're in the position we're at today.
I think I did not know that you had a perfect record. You know what I mean? Perfect. Yes. Perfect. That's tough. But, the most telling part about that story is they gave you time.
Right.
Because I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong, but in my mind, maybe I'm just a pessimist. But if that would have happened to anybody else today, that might be your first, that might be your last year too.
You're right.
And it'd be hard to argue, if they're going to dismiss you for that. But how difficult was it for you from game to game to muster up whatever it took to get back in the lab the day after and get to work? Or at some point you run out of those consolation speeches to your team, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think I never ran out of those speeches. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about the speeches. I had a group of kids that they understood their limits and understood what it was going to take. And they came in every day and worked. There were some days that I felt that in practice, I'm thinking, okay, here we go again. We got to play X team. And our chances weren't good. I think we had 7 kids on varsity. 2 of them were freshmen. It was a small school at that time. But I tell you, those kids would run through a wall for us over there. They worked their butts off. And there was a couple games we lost at the buzzer. Mm-hmm. And I believe all 7 right now are very, very successful young men. Some are doctors, lawyers, and they'll reach out to me and just always remember those years that we never quit, we never stopped fighting, we would try to find a way, and it was a learning experience for me too. Sure. And I still use some of those speeches and some of those examples to my teams today and letting them know, you better have a plan B and figuring out what we're going to be able to do if things don't work out. Right. And I think sometimes that don't happen.
Means to an end. That's what this is.
That's right.
For most of them. But did all of them stay with you? Or did you have any end up quitting and say, man, I can't do this, coach. I think this ain't for me. I'm going to move on. My
first year there, yeah, we had a couple that didn't stick with us, and kind of did something different, because we came in with some discipline. We came in that we were going to work hard, and it was not going to be, on your time. It was going to be on our time, and this is how it's going to be done. And, sure. I think that's probably till today in some kids. They either want discipline or they don't. And if they want discipline, they'll be successful. And sure. At that time, I think we had a few that didn't handle it and didn't stick with us. They went on to other things, but the ones that stuck with it, successful kids, they're doing well.
I got 2 more Mount St. Mary's questions for you. First one, did you make a state tournament appearance during your time there?
Yeah, we won 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row.
2009, 10, and 11.
I see, that's big time right there, man. Despite all the burdens, you still getting a part of that final 8.
Yeah, we were blessed. We had some good teams, like I said, and I thought we probably had our best team in 2012 and had a chance to make it, but that was the year that they went to the private-public classification rule and bumped us up to 4A that year.
Right.
But we had some special teams and some guys that really found a way to win, and 2009 was I think 3 seniors, and they came in from their elementary schools as winners, and they told us that they were going to get to that state tournament, and they did exactly what they said they were going to do.
It's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
And last one on that one is, have you learned any different way to approach a kid in terms of coaching them and holding them accountable and giving them something to believe in if that kid has let it be known that they don't plan on pursuing basketball past high school? Because I think it's a big misconception that, every player wants to go and play at the next level.
Right.
Not necessarily true, but it doesn't mean that kid won't give you everything,
I think it's important that you really meet with your players individually. Mm-hmm. And not always just maybe the player and the head coach, but maybe have one assistant coach in there with you, and find out what is his long-term goals. What are your aspirations for high school, for one, and then what's your aspirations after high school, if it's a possibility.
Right.
One thing I've always stressed to our kids is try to be the best high school player you can be right now. Let's try to be the best high school player you can be for your team and your teammates, and then let's see what can open up after that, what doors are going to open up after that. I think some kids sometimes forget about the process of being a good high school player, thinking they can automatically go be a college player.
Right.
And they don't understand that you've got to be a pretty good player here in high school to even get that percentage of which is a low percentage to get in that college ranks to play in college, which is a difficult step to do.
Levels to it. Got to crawl before you walk, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Okay, now after your tenure at Mount St. Mary's, where you go from there? Well, what's the next gig?
Took the head job at Edmond Santa Fe.
Right.
Edmond Santa Fe High School. Spent 4 years out there, and
that was which year when you got it?
2015. We were runner-ups. State runners.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Now I remember that. I wasn't sure if that was your first year or if it was your second. But
that was my third year.
It was your third year.
That was my third year.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been our third year. We went to the finals.
All right. Was that your first state tournament appearance at Edmond Santa Fe at that time?
That was my first state tournament at Edmond Santa Fe.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, how was that process? Because usually you hear it as, a team goes from not making state and then eventually they get into the state tournament. Mm-hmm. And then maybe a year or a couple years down the line, they get to that last dance. And you're somebody you're one of those faces that to me are synonymous with the state tournament these days. And then better than any that it's one thing to get there, it's a whole nother thing to get to that last game.
It's totally.
How do you make those leaps? Man, talk about the work y'all put in with that team in those first 2 years just to get to year 3.
Well, I remember we got upset by Norman in my second year in the regionals. First round. We were favored to win, and
that's 6A for you.
And 6A was tough. We didn't play very well, and it was one of them nights that they caught us on a bad night, and we got upset, and had a lot of disgruntled, players, parents, whatever you want to call it, and some things happened, some transitions happened with some things in that program, and I started questioning, kind of, was there anything I could do different? I started talking to my assistants, and I don't think it was really anything we did different. We got outplayed that night. And that third year, we had a group of seniors that came in and was really, really focused on not letting that happen again. Mm-hmm. And those seniors really kind of took it to a whole new level in practice with their leadership, with their commitment, how things need to be done, and the rest was history. They ended up taking that program and they did all the work. They're the ones that got there and put themselves in a position to win. And we ran up against, I think, one of the best teams in the state that year, which was Mustang. Mm-hmm.
That was the undefeated year, huh?
Correct. Yeah, that was the undefeated year. And it was a tall task for us to beat them, but our opportunity was to get there, and then anything could happen when you get there. And
you actually made me think of something. I gotta be messy a little bit. I had my man Jesse Brown on here some months ago, and he was talking about their PC West team that year and how they were just looking past every opponent except for Mustang. And he said, "Man, we ran into Santa Fe in the semis, and they took it to us, man." What do you remember about that particular game against those guys? I know it's been many moons ago.
That was, gosh, Lenny Bird had some really good players on that team that year, and I remembered when I can't remember his name. It just slipped my mind. Gosh, he went to Baylor for a little bit. Ooh. But anyways, he hit. They have the ball last possession with about 2-point-some seconds left, and it's inbounded at the half court, and he lets it go, and it goes in, and the score's tied, and it goes in, and one referee official counted it, the other two got together, they waved it off, so we went to overtime.
Ooh.
Went to overtime. And I knew when we got to overtime, I thought that we had that because we had some guys that didn't have foul troubles. I thought we had some opportunities that we could expose them on some things in overtime. And our guys were going to be able to, if we get that lead, we were going to make them come get us, you know. Yeah. And it was, gosh, it wasn't Omega. That's going to bother me. I can't remember his name. Gosh, he was a phenomenal player.
It wasn't Jolly, was it?
Jolly.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was Jolly.
It
was Jolly. Tyson Jolly.
There you go.
And great player. And but we got him in overtime. And I mean, it was just we knew they were looking over us because a lot of people wasn't even expecting us to be at that state tournament. You know. And when we got that win, it was of course joyous in the locker room, but it was just more of a defining moment for that program because Santa Fe has a lot of tradition, a lot of great players that came through there. And
sure.
You know, I think the last time they won it was it 2001? If I got my memory right, I want to say it was maybe 01. Hope I was right on that. That's when they had OB and Epe and that group. And, you know, but since then, they've only had 2 state runner-up teams. One was 2015 when I coached them, and then the other one was under Coach Williams.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that Santa Fe group, I think it may have been 05.
Was it 05?
I think it may have been 05. You know what I mean?
Some 01 is sticking with me.
I know I'm an 07 grad, and I remember watching those guys that were a couple years ahead of me. So, you know, we'll fact check it before it's over with.
Okay.
But say, you know, you go up against the giant at that time, which was Mustang. You guys put together an effort, because I was there to watch that game, and, you know, you fall short. What do you go in there and tell those guys after a valiant effort like that? I mean, obviously, you know, because let me add some context to it. When people say that they don't believe in the moral victories, I feel like we got to add some context to that. Because, like, you know, you look at the things that you brought that program from just to get to that point. There's no way you can go tell those guys that, hey, if you lose this game, none of that matters. You know what I'm saying? So what do you go in there and say to those guys after that?
Well, I'm with you. My guys was definitely not into no moral victory at that time, you know, and neither was I. There was a lot of disappointment, a lot of emotion. But at the end of the day, I believe those guys knew that I think they played their hardest out there on the floor and left it on the floor. And that's all I could ask for with them. You know, that senior group, you know, several of them got opportunity to go on in college and get a degree. One of them is now with the Sacramento Kings, Daquan Jeffries, and one of the other one, Deron Mims, is actually going to be one of my assistant coaches down at the junior high that I'm working at. So I think all that comes in a full circle, right. You know, with how they played, how they left it on the floor, and they didn't have anything to hold their heads down about. It was about us competing, us going out there doing our best effort, and us going out there and trying to represent Santa Fe at the best we could to try to find a way to bring that gold ball home.
There we go. What about those next 2 years? That was year 3, right? Smack dab in the middle.
That was year 3. Then year 4, we got upset, had a chance to win to go to state. Got beat by PC North. Got beat by PC North. It was up in Tulsa, actually at Tulsa Memorial High School. Had a tip in to win it, lose by 1, and don't get a chance to go to state.
That's 6A for you though, man.
That's we had a lot of good teams, a lot of good players, you know, and that was also, you know, a really deep senior group that we had, you know, Tyler Williams, Connor Johnson, James Bagwell. We had a group of guys that's play at the next level that just all got their degrees right now. That's just dating my age right now, how long it's been. But I'm so proud of what they've done. And didn't get to state tournament. And then, you know, I kind of listened to what was going on about Del City's job. And that's kind of back home. My roots where I kind of grew up around him. I knew a lot about Del City, even though I was a Carl Albert grad. And it worked out. Called me in for an interview and been there. This will be my 5th year. Just finished on my 4th year there.
Does it ever get old getting the call as opposed to making the call?
You talking about as far as a job?
Yeah, as far as somebody inquiring about you. You know what I mean? Because I've had it happen a couple of times. I'm always sort of flattered, like, dang.
I think it's always good that you're sometimes wanted versus not being wanted.
That's a fact.
And so I believe it is gratifying, and then it just has to be the right position and job for you and your family. I think sometimes as I've gotten older, I've got to make sure that my decisions are based off what's best for me and my family too. And it was just best for me when I was starting out, as a young pup. I could move around whenever I wanted to, and go coach. Wherever. But it was a good transition. Both the previous high schools that I coached at, Santa Fe and Mount St. Mary, has definitely built me to the person I am right now to get to where I'm at. And I've learned so much from both schools. I've been blessed with great players and admin and staff and my assistant coaches. I've been blessed. I still got, Tommy Griffin's been with me. He was with me 3 years at Santa Fe, and he's been with me all 4 years at Dell City, So I try to make it where I want those guys to be around me as much as possible, just as much as I want to be around them. And I think our kids gravitate off of that and feed off of that. And that kind of keeps that family atmosphere, that closeness that we have.
Right. And while you're talking about coaching, has it ever been difficult for you to delegate responsibilities?
No, not really. I think when you have a staff that's experienced and understands the game, I think it's more about you guys. It's about being communicative with each other and having those meetings where we're going to disagree to agree,
right?
But when you have that experience on your staff that's going to be able to give you knowledge, and I don't think it's ever going to be a way to steer you the wrong way. You have to listen. And that's something I've always been willing to do. And I admit that to all my staff, my players. I'll never tell you that I know everything. I need to learn. I want to learn from my players. I want to learn from my staff and vice versa. And I think as long as we're trying to learn every day to better ourselves as men, coaches, husbands, fathers, whatever it is, I think that's the right direction that we're trying to go to.
There you go. So Mr. Griffin is still on your staff to this day, correct?
Yes.
And then you just made a heck of an acquisition to go on top of that. Old Tondrell Durham, he's got head coaching experience. He's done it at a high level, and he's a champ.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Man, what are your expectations from those guys this year? Y'all have an all-star lineup over there on the side.
Well, I like I told him when Coach Durham accepted the job, I kind of made a joke. I said, I'm just trying to get one ring, with all the rings they got between them two.
Sure.
But he came in and wants to. He's a team player. He says, Coach, whatever we need to do. He goes, I'm excited about being back in the gym, and you could tell just off of some of the summer workouts we've been able to do, having him in there and his voice, and kids know if you know basketball.
Oh yeah, it don't take them long.
Kids know if you know basketball, and they both have a high IQ of the game, and I think that's why our kids are playing at the level they're able to play at and be able to respond with the coaching that they're getting.
Now, did I hear you right a moment ago? Did you say this was your fourth season you just finished it?
I just finished my fourth season at Dell City.
Right. And this is obviously, well, from my opinion, I call it obvious. You got a different demographic of kids here versus your last two stints. Was there any noticeable difference in terms of how you needed to approach or how you needed to communicate with this group of young men that may have been different from where you've been before you got to Dell City?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's just I had to be a little more open-minded to understand. Bringing them guys in one-on-one to find out, what's going on at home. What things do you need?
Right.
And sometimes those things become obvious. You're able to find out. But once they know you love them and that you're gonna coach them hard and that you're gonna treat them right with respect, these guys they'll do whatever they need for you, and they give you everything. And we've been fortunate to have some of those guys here at Dell City, since I've been there. And it's, we kind of came in that first year about just trying to change the culture because they struggled the past couple of years before I got the job. And there were some kids that were moving around, going to different schools. And my focus was, I knew Dell City was always, to me, a gold mine is the terminology sometimes that I use. It just took some discipline. It took some stability. It took some time to let those kids know that you're in it. You're in it with them, good or bad. We're gonna get through this together,
and I'm gonna be here.
And I'm gonna be here. And I think once they started figuring that out, you could start seeing the corners turn, and kids weren't leaving. We weren't losing any kids, and that to me was important for Dale City.
Have you had many athletes that you have to share that play dual sports?
Yeah, we have my first 2 years we didn't have as much. My third year we had a few that played football, and they were real successful in football. Got a great football program going on over there with Coach Dunn and his staff. This year might be more than I've ever had since I've been in Dale City.
Okay,
but they're. As long as they're being successful and working, I'm okay with it. And then there's the ones that are in basketball they're going to be successful as well.
The year-round kids.
Yeah, they're year-round. But we found at Dale City that I believe several of these kids have been playing 2 or 3 sports. All those sports, that basketball, football, and track, has been successful. And our boys, not last year, but the year before things got shut down, were state champions. The boys and girls in track. And I think it starts from the start of the season and builds all the way through to school. That's where you kind of get that pride of going about understanding how to win. Winning
breeds winning, as they say.
It does. And
I guess unfortunately, it works the same in reverse. So
it can.
We got to make sure we make the right things contagious. Now, have 4 straight trips to the state tournament since you've been in Dale City, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we 4 straight tournaments.
You were runner-up a year ago, am I right?
Yes, 2019 state runner-ups. Tulsa Memorial was state champs.
You knocking on that door, man.
We're knocking, man. We're knocking. We were knocking hard last year.
Yeah.
We were knocking hard last year.
I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that feeling, now a defeat is defeat, period. But was that feeling any different from the 2015 experience?
In 2019?
Yes.
Man, they're both tough, when you lose, because you go in expecting to win. You go in, your guys are expecting to win. And we had a great game plan, I thought, against Tulsa Memorial. Of course, they had some really good players, and they're going to be great college players.
Sure.
But I think that our guys were starting to figure out that we could compete at that level with those type of teams. When we started getting to those state tournaments, and when we got to that final game against Tulsa Memorial, we knew what we had. We knew what we had to work against with those guys that they had. And I think a play here or there changes the game. A call here or there, a play here or there. That game's a total different outcome. But I really was happy with our game plan and the way we came out there and competed. It wasn't going, they knew we were coming out. We were going to come out tough, and we were going to come out trying to win the game. But fortunately, it didn't go in our favor.
It's one of those things. And I'm gearing up to ask you this question about this year. Now, obviously, every team in every class in Oklahoma that made it to that Final 8 didn't get to finish the job because of the COVID situation and all of that. So would you say that it's more of a challenge to get there when you're unexpected, as opposed to when you've been ranked number 1 all year, pretty much like y'all were, and you had the best team, in my opinion, in 5A all season, and everybody's expecting Dale City to be there in the final game going to that dance? Was there any pressure felt?
That question's been asked to me before, and last year's team that I had were probably one of the most humble teams that I've had. As good as we were, our guys, they never felt that they weren't all, how do I want to say this? They weren't always expecting just gratitude and gratification just because they were number 1. Right. They knew that every game they had to go play was important. And I think that was a mindset of those seniors that we had. I mean, they weren't going to accept losing. They weren't going to accept losing, and they were really playing at a total different level. I felt that was going to be really hard to coach against, and I told them that, and that was probably one of the toughest feelings to accept, due to the fact knowing that we had that opportunity to get to that state tournament, and then the way they were playing was so confident that not conceited, just confident, and they were playing together. I thought that was going to be a hard thing for other teams to coach against. And
so they bought in. Was it relatively early when they bought in? Could you see it back in August?
Definitely, because a lot of those guys that were seniors played as juniors on that state runner-up team.
Yeah.
So they had that taste in their mouth. They talk about it in practice. They were able to be vocal in practice and let them guys know, hey, we're not going to let this happen again. This is our goal to get there. And when you have seniors that's been in your program for 4 years, I think sometimes you got to let them have a little voice. You got to let them have a little voice. As long as it's come across the right way, you got to let them have them a little voice to let these younger guys know this is what we're trying to do, and we want you guys to be a part of it as well.
When it comes to leadership, and I ask all the coaches that I sit with this question, I think there's another misconception that your best player has to be your most vocal in terms of leadership, and I've seen it happen differently. I've seen a kid have all the tools physically, great talent, great athlete, but personality-wise, they're just not the rah-rah guy.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that that's a problem. And then conversely, you have the guy who's the rah-rah guy, but he ain't working that hard. So what type of leader would you prefer?
I think it's got to have a balance.
Okay.
I think you got to have a balance in there. I think leaders definitely show how to work, day in and day out. There's no days off.
Right.
And I think the other guys that are under them, or should I say younger guys, hopefully that can feed off into them. I'll never forget, I'll go back to kind of DeQuan Jeffries. He was probably one of the most quiet kids I've ever coached. A lot of people wouldn't know that now, but he was, and I'm not saying he talks all the time now, but he was one of the most humble kids, but his work ethic was so far above everybody else's that no one could question why he was that leader, why he was the player that he was then, and why he's the player he is now. And I thought that the way he presented himself in practice spoke volumes to, or should I say, set the tone in practice to everybody else. Now, when he spoke in practice, Jim was quiet because he was one of those guys that hardly ever spoke. And those kids listen, and I think that's when that balance comes in. Yeah. He did the work. When he knew it was time to get hooked up and he's telling somebody to, let's go, or let's pick it up, they listen. Otherwise, hey, that guy may have to go do something different because DeQuan's been through it. He's understood what it's going to take.
Right.
And we had that last year with several seniors. Nate Goodlow and Montreal Crutchfield and Kyron Williams. We had some seniors that they played together all since junior high, and now they played all the way through high school. They knew each other's tendencies. They knew what it was going to take to win, and
chemistry was there.
Chemistry was there. Chemistry was there. And, Nate was probably more of the he did the work as far as the leader. Kyron, our big guy inside, he was more of the voice.
Right.
So we had a good balance in our gym and of course, our coaching staff and just everybody else. Once that worked itself out, the rest was on them to go take care of business.
Man, that's a beautiful thing right there. And it's nice to have an extension of the coach on the floor every now and again. So
you
ain't got to do all the instruction all the time. Okay, now I got to get, I guess you could say, a little bit controversial. And you go as deep as you feel like you want to go. The whole COVID situation, right? You remember, I'm hearing all this stuff talking about, apparently you guys had some visitors, right? Okay. Some pro athletes coming in there, doing some shoot around at y'all's facilities and showing some love to your players. And then that's been said. I don't know if it's factual or not, that, hey, this is where the COVID situation started. And then it just sort of trickled down. The very next day, the whole world shuts down. We don't get to play the state tournament, blah, 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 blah. What is that, Coach?
Whoa, the situation?
Yeah, what is the situation for real?
A lot of it you learn. I learned in this time that we're in right now that so many stories and facts can get so twisted when you don't actually go find out from the source.
Exactly.
But I'll sum it up. It was a Tuesday night, and I've been fortunate. Actually it was through Irv Rowland, a good friend of mine. He hits me up and asks me, one of his trainers for the Utah Jazz had a guy that they wanted to work out. And I'd said, just tell him, give me a call. It was Tuesday evening. I had no clue it was going to be Donovan Mitchell. When Donovan came up with his trainer and two of his one was a security guy, and I think the other two were guys that kind of just practiced with him. They weren't even pro guys, managers, whatever, film guys. I don't know what the title was, but they all, got there, and it was me and my son at the gym, opened up the gym, and one of my assistant coaches and one of my other players happened to be there, which I didn't know. They were just getting some extra shots up before we get ready to go to that state tournament. Yeah. So that's Tuesday night. Very limited contact with him. I just was kind of, shocked that it's Donovan Mitchell, and I'm watching him on the other end work out, and he's an I mean, I'm telling my son, he's 6. I said, this is the reason why I think he's an NBA All-Star. He's working out the day before he's got to go play one of the toughest teams in the Western Conference, in my opinion, which was the Thunder, on a Wednesday. So got some tickets to go to the game the next day. And of course, that game gets canceled on Wednesday. Gobert gets tested positive. And then we're driving up to Skytook on Thursday. And that's
y'all had already made the trip?
We would already made the trip.
Oh.
Yeah, they were telling us to go ahead and go on. Just the fact that no one knew all sorts. There was so many rumors going around that I had my team in there, that they were doing up and down with our guys, that we were doing one-on-one. And I was thinking to myself, what coach in his right mind is going to let some high school players play one-on-one with an NBA guy when he's got a game on Wednesday?
Yeah, and y'all got 3 of the biggest games.
We got 3
possibly.
of our biggest games, exactly.
No.
So it was really, really frustrating and you can edit this if you want, but it pissed me off a little bit.
Straight up.
To the point where, as I think any father, when you're around an NBA guy or somebody that you feel is influential to your son or your kids, you take a picture with them, and I took a picture. I let my son take a picture with him. And
that's something he was going to forget, man.
Exactly. He was so personable, just a down-to-earth guy. And a lot of these guys don't think these NBA guys are down-to-earth. There's some that I've been fortunate to know that have been great family, good mentor guys that our kids need to really listen to, sometimes. And when that picture came out, I mean, social media just took it to a whole new negative way, towards my son, things about my son, things like that. And that it really steered me and bothered me, in a way that it just lets you know what this world can be like, how cruel it can be.
Sure. And everybody's looking for a fight.
And everybody's looking for something to point a finger at, so a reason, But, the timeline, I still think to this day, I still think that the state tournament could have been played. I really think that there should have been no reason why it couldn't have been played. I wish OSSAA, and I've talked to their officials that made that decision. I wish they would have called me and asked me personally. I've known them long enough, been in this business long enough to, hey, Hatchett, what happened? What was going on? Who was in the gym? Of course, no one knew he was positive on Tuesday because he doesn't come out positive till Thursday. Right. So
including him, I'm sure he didn't know either.
Including him, exactly. So that right there will be something of course, I'll never forget.
Sure.
Just because it affected not only me and my family, but it affected this Dell City basketball community and the team. On what happened, and
in a big way too.
In a huge way. And, but, my guys, we'll talk about it every now and then when they see me, and they'll come and tell me, man, Coach, I still wish we could have played that game. And I know we would have did this. And, we always end it with, we love you and all things like that. They knew there was no wrong in me, what I did on Tuesday. And if I thought it would have been a deal, I would have invited my whole program to come up, right. Just to meet them, But
who wouldn't have?
I know about those NBA guys that kind of like went their own time, and I just wanted to make sure there was nobody in the gym at that time, and so there was a maximum of maybe 6 people in the gym, and 4 of them was, his crew,
There you go.
So
and 2 regulars,
my assistant and one of my players, but. That was a tough time. That was a real tough time. It's still hard to cope with and just hard to understand as far as trying to figure out, I know those kids will remember that, and hopefully we can move on from that as well.
For sure. Now, things seem to be opening back up slowly but surely, but I don't know for how long because, we just had a spike within the last week or so, so I think everything's written in sand. But are you able to have any kind of contact with your boys right now in the program? Are y'all able to be active at all?
Yeah, we're able to have a little contact with them. Our district and admin has kind of put some stipulations on some things that we're not allowed to do.
Sure.
And when you're going against something that's the unknown, I'm gonna follow those rules. And I know there's some other gyms and other things doing what they do, and I'm all about it. I'm whatever people feel is comfortable with, but. When you're working for somebody else and you're under that district, you gotta follow those rules. And we do what we can with our guys. They've been able to come in and get some solid work in, and hopefully, if they are able to go play on the weekend and maybe some of these tournaments that are going on, that we're helping them get better and hopefully be ready for when our season does open up.
Right. And I gotta throw this at you while I'm thinking about it, guy. I meant to ask you a couple segments ago. How are you after a tough loss as a coach? You know what I mean? What does that practice the next day look like?
You can ask my wife.
There you go. That'd probably be a better person to ask. And, because I would imagine. I guess I want to know how much time are you spending recapping the night before, or maybe getting those guys to pay some debts from the previous night, and how long does it take for you to transition to we got a game Friday? That was Tuesday. We got to go to Friday now.
I think I've treated this different ways throughout my career of doing this. There's been some days when you come off a loss, we're coming in and we're just no balls out. We're going to learn from that loss.
And they know exactly what that means.
And I think everybody has a way that whatever works for them. Don't get me wrong. There's days if we lose a game, we know we're coming in and it's going to be a grind, but we're probably going to be grinding more on what do we need to work on.
Okay.
What caused that loss? What do we need to get better at? Was it the defensive end? Was it that we're not sharing the ball? Was it so whatever it may be, it's something we're going to stress and practice. That's what we need to work on to get better.
Right.
And that's work for us. Especially when you've got games to come up. Mentally, I think kids need to understand that they need to know what they did wrong, but also know how to correct it. And some kids don't know that if you don't tell them.
That's a fact.
So
I guess it's safe to assume that most of them don't know that. So just go ahead and tell them.
Well, we try to let them know that. Yes.
What about on the flip side? You just had a big win the night before. Maybe you blew somebody out of the gym, or maybe you beat a notable opponent that on paper you weren't supposed to beat, and your fellas are riding high. They're feeling good about themselves. How important is it to get right back at them in the lab the next day and make sure that you don't waste the day because you're still celebrating? How does that look for you guys?
Well, we talk about not losing the day and trying to win the day.
Okay.
Because we know that opportunity may not be there. But every time we do have a win after a game, one thing that we always comment to our players is never get too high on ourselves when we win and never get too low on ourselves when we lose. So when we walk out this locker room, we know we're going to stay humble and know that we're going to come in the next day and we're going to work just like it's day one. And they responded to that and they bought into that. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we've been able to have the success we've had at Del City.
Got two more things to throw at you, Coach, because I've appreciated this a great deal. We've been trying to line it up for a minute, haven't we?
Appreciate it.
Man, if you could go back in your catalog, all right, as a player at any level or as a coach, right, and there's an opponent that you locked horns with, your team versus theirs, and you knew then, just like now, that y'all were the better group, but for whatever reason, they beat you. And if you could go back and run one game back, it'd be that game. Which one would you go to?
Ooh. Which game would I go back to run that game back?
Yes, sir. One as a player, one as a coach.
Man, well, I guess as a coach, I would, so I'd have to throw both of those state runner-up teams. Or I'd have to say two games on that. You want to run back those games and be able to do that. And probably as a player, it'd be one of my senior year is being able to go back and replay that game against Douglas High School.
That's that one.
That's that.
They kept y'all from the state tournament, right?
Yeah, correct.
That's it.
Correct. That's a senior loaded ball club that we had, and they were senior loaded too. A lot of those guys were all friends, to this day. But that would probably be one of the games that I would want to go back and play over. Yeah. And then of course the two state runner-up games.
Those two silvers, man. So
yes,
you get that gold.
Yes.
Well, here's how we'll end it, man. Because I looked on your, we're social media followers. I follow you, and you posted a video of your daughter getting some work in a couple months ago, either a couple weeks or a month or so ago. She's out there in the driveway getting some work in.
Yeah.
And so that made me think, and pretty much anybody who's a coach and a parent, they've always given me some stories about the moment that they had to figure out how to be one and not the other, as opposed to merging those two. And,
right.
And you told me a little early before we turned the mics and cameras on, you got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, right?
Correct.
10-year-old daughter, 6-year-old son, and both of them are athletes, right?
They work at it.
They're working at it. Okay, so
they're pretty good.
Are you able to be just dad whenever they're getting busy, or are you having to put that coaching hat on?
There's been times I got to put that coaching hat on, because you know your kids better than any other kid that you probably be around, because you see them all the time, and you just want the best for them. Sure. You want to push them, and you want them to know that you're loving them, but you also want to know that you can do better, and just don't settle. And that's something I've tried to ingrain in my daughters. Just don't settle. Go out there and when you do play hard, compete. I want you to have fun with it, but don't play with no regrets when you leave that floor. Now my son, he's all out. He's ready to go 100 miles an hour. He'll make a mistake and he's ready to still go 100 miles an hour. So
you gotta love it.
They're two different tales of the way they play.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been fun. This downtime that we have been able to have the kids at home makes you appreciate more of being a father, being that influential person to them. Hopefully, you're creating those memories where they won't forget, or instilling them some attributes that they won't ever forget as well.
Is it basketball for the both of them, or do they dabble?
My daughter, she does. She was doing gymnastics, but she does basketball, and now she's wanting to kind of dabble in volleyball, and she wants to run track.
Oh, man, look at that.
My son is basketball and soccer. Anything with a ball and running, he's all about it. He's always talking about, now he's starting to talk about maybe baseball and football. So we just try to let them decide on like what they do, and kind of steer them that direction, and let them try it out and see what happens.
Wise words from a wise man, Coach. Best of luck to you moving forward, man. Hopefully we can get to back to some realm of normalcy here, and get back in the gym. That's the main thing, step by step. But wishing you luck, man, and I know you're gonna do great like you've been doing.
Well, thank you, and I wish you luck too.
Thank you.
You're gonna be on the east side over there in Tulsa,
State.
but congratulations on being back at your alma mater, man. I know you'll do great things over there for that school. That's a great program.
Thank you, sir.
Good program.
I'm gonna see what I can do. Be like Coach Hatchett, baby.
I know. Good luck.